The night was cold and silent on planet Alo 7. Dr. Ethan Voss walked alone on the empty road, his white coat soaked from the soft rain falling from the sky. The city lights were dim and most shops had already closed. He had just finished a long shift at the colony clinic and was walking back to his small apartment nearby. As he passed behind the clinic building, a soft sound stopped him. A whisper, so quiet it was almost lost in the rain. "It hurts." "We're hungry," the voice said, weak and shaking. Ethan turned quickly, his heart beating faster. "Hello?" he called, stepping carefully toward the dark alley. The sound came again, this time a little louder. "It hurts." "We're hungry." Behind the trash bins, in a pile of old blankets, he saw them. Two small girls, curled up close together, shivering. Their skin was pale and slightly glowing, and their eyes were big and filled with fear. They didn't look like any normal child he had seen. Not fully human, not fully alien. One girl, maybe 7 years old, had short silver hair and a small glowing mark on her neck. The younger one, maybe 5, looked even weaker, holding her sister tightly. Both were thin, too thin, and covered in dirt and bruises. Ethan slowly knelt beside them, keeping his voice calm and soft. "It's okay, I'm a doctor," he said. "Can I help you?" The older girl looked up but didn't speak. The younger one cried softly, whispering again. Hungry. Ethan knew he couldn't leave them here. He picked them up carefully in his arms and carried them inside the clinic. The halls were dark, but he had the emergency keys. He locked the door behind him and took them to a small room in the back. He gave them warm blankets, water, and a nutrition gel from the storage. They ate slowly, watching him with wide eyes. They didn't speak much, only short words like cold, thanks, and scared. Ethan began to run some tests. He needed to know who they were, if they were sick or if someone was looking for them. He scanned their blood, their DNA, and their skin for ID chips. What he saw on the screen made him freeze. Their DNA was strange, not just alien, but mixed. There were pieces of human military gene tech hidden inside their code, secret markers that he had only seen in classified files during his training. His hands shook slightly. These girls were not regular lost children. They were created by who? For what? And why were they thrown away like garbage? Ethan searched the colony system for any record. No missing persons. No reports, nothing. It was like they didn't exist. He checked their bodies more closely. The older girl had scars. Tiny ones near her ribs, her neck, and the back of her head. The younger girl had burn marks on her back that looked like they were from a lab machine. His heart sank. These girls had suffered. And not just from hunger. Suddenly, the scanner beeped. A small metal object was found under the skin near the older girl's rib. Ethan used a surgical tool to carefully remove it. It was a tracking chip, and it was active. Someone knew they were here and that someone might be coming. Ethan stood up, breathing heavily. He looked at the two girls now sleeping in the soft light of the clinic. They were peaceful, safe for now, but he knew this was just the beginning. The real danger hadn't even started yet. As he turned off the lights and checked the locks again, one question echoed in his mind. Who made these girls and why did they want them gone? The night passed slowly in the small clinic room. Dr. Ethan Voss couldn't sleep. His mind was full of questions. The two little girls were resting under warm blankets, their breathing soft and weak. Every time Ethan looked at them, he felt something heavy in his chest. They were innocent, yet someone had hurt them, created them and thrown them away. The tracking chip he had removed was still on the table. Blinking faintly, he had disabled it, but he knew it might already have sent a signal. Whoever made these girls could come looking at any moment. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the DNA results on his screen. The human code hidden inside their blood was not normal. It was from a military project he had heard about long ago, something called Project W13. Rumors said it was stopped after a failure, but no one ever spoke of what really happened. He opened the colony's medical network, his fingers moving fast. Most files were locked behind government clearance. He hesitated only a second before typing in an old override code he had once used in training. The system beeped and opened a hidden list of files. There it was, glowing faintly on the screen. Project W13 terminated. Ethan clicked it, and the screen turned black for a few seconds. Then a list of research logs appeared. He scrolled through them quickly. Blood tests, genetic formulas, failed experiments, and then his heart stopped. There were photos, 2 small girls in lab tanks, their faces pale and eyes closed. He zoomed in, his hands shaking. It was them. The same two girls lying asleep in his clinic. The document said, subjects 01 and 02, terminated 6 years ago, caused genetic instability. Ethan's throat went dry. Terminated, but they were alive, breathing right here. Someone had lied. He searched deeper. Reading through the notes of a scientist named Dr. Varon, the man had written something strange before his disappearance. If they survive, it means the cure works. Do not destroy them. They are the key. Ethan whispered the words under his breath. The key. To what? He copied the files to his personal drive and deleted all traces of his access. He didn't know who he could trust. Even the hospital director was once part of military research. If they found out what he had done, his career and maybe his life would be over. He looked back at the sleeping girls. One of them, the younger one, began to whisper in her sleep, "Mother, burned, save us." Ethan froze. Was she remembering something from the lab? He knelt beside her and gently brushed her hair aside. The skin on her neck glowed faintly in a strange pattern, almost like a code. Suddenly a loud noise echoed outside, the sound of engines. Ethan rushed to the window and saw dark vehicles stopping near the clinic. Men in black armor stepped out, holding scanners and rifles. They moved with perfect discipline. Military agents. They were here for the girls. Ethan's heart pounded. He turned off all lights and grabbed his small medical bag. He needed to leave before they broke in. He wrapped the girls in blankets and lifted them carefully. The younger one opened her eyes weakly. "Doctor?" she whispered. "Shh," Ethan said softly. "It's okay. We're leaving now." He moved through the back door, using a maintenance key that led to a service tunnel. The sound of boots echoed behind him. "Search the building," one of the soldiers shouted. Thermal readings show 3 life forms. Ethan ran through the dark tunnel. His breath fast, the girls clung to him, trembling. He reached the end of the tunnel where it opened into an old drainage path. Cold air hit his face and rain poured harder now. He covered the girls with his coat and kept running through the storm. Behind him, lights flashed and voices shouted. He turned into a narrow alley and stopped, hiding behind metal crates. He could hear their scanners buzzing in the distance. The older girl, Elira, looked up at him with wide eyes. "They're coming," she said softly. Her voice calm but tired. Ethan nodded. "I know," he whispered, "but I won't let them take you." They moved again, deeper into the industrial zone where few people lived. Ethan remembered an old safe house used for medical storage during the plague years. It was underground and still had power. He guided them there and locked the entrance behind him. The room smelled of dust and rust, but it was dry and safe. He laid the girls on a cot and checked their vitals. Weak, but stable. He sat down, breathing hard. The files he had stolen now felt heavy in his pocket. He opened his wrist console and looked again at the photo of the 2 girls in tanks. 6 years ago, they were supposed to be dead, yet here they were, alive, lost, hunted. Ethan realized something else. If they were the only survivors, there must have been others before them, other experiments, other children who didn't survive. And maybe these 2 held the secret to why. He closed his eyes for a moment. He didn't plan this. He didn't ask for this, but now, he was the only one who could protect them. The storm outside grew louder, thunder shaking the walls. Ethan whispered to himself, "No one is going to hurt you again." The older girl opened her eyes, half awake, and said softly, "Thank you, Doctor." He smiled weakly. "Rest now, Elira." But in his heart, he knew peace wouldn't last long. Somewhere out there, someone powerful wanted them back. And if they found out what he had done tonight, he would become their next target. Next, Part 3. Run before they find us. The chase begins and the truth starts to unfold. The morning came with gray clouds and cold air. Inside the old storage shelter, Ethan Voss sat awake while the 2 little girls slept beside him. His mind raced with everything he had learned. The stolen files in his pocket, the photos of the girls in lab tanks, the military DNA, and now the trackers. They were not just children. They were secrets, and someone dangerous wanted them back. A loud rumble shook the building. Ethan jumped to his feet, peeking through the broken wall vents. Down the street he saw them, black vehicles again. This time they were not searching. They were coming straight for the shelter. "Wake up," he whispered quickly, shaking the girls gently. "We have to go now." Elira opened her eyes. Alert and calm, the younger one, Luma, yawned softly but obeyed. Ethan wrapped them in warm coats and grabbed his bag. Footsteps echoed outside. He opened the back door and slipped into the side alley. Holding the girls' hands tightly, they moved fast, cutting through empty market streets. Drones buzzed in the sky, scanning everything. Ethan led them into an old sewage tunnel beneath the city, a dark, wet path no one used anymore. The girls didn't complain. Even as water splashed their feet, Elira walked silently, her eyes scanning the dark like she had done this before. Luma hummed softly to calm herself. Ethan turned on a dim light on his wrist console. They walked for what felt like hours, until they reached an exit near the forest edge. Here, no buildings stood, only wild land and broken fence lines. He took a deep breath. "I know a place," he said. "An old research base. It's hidden in the hills. No one goes there now." The girls didn't ask questions. They trusted him. Ethan felt the weight of that trust. He had to keep them safe. By evening, they reached the edge of the hills. Thick trees blocked the view of the city, and the air smelled like earth and rain. Ethan remembered the old base. His mentor had taken him there years ago, a forgotten lab from the time before the colony wars. When they arrived, the door was buried under roots and moss. Ethan pulled the vines away and scanned his ID. Surprisingly, the lock still responded with a soft beep. The door opened slowly, letting out a breath of stale, cold air. Inside, the lights flickered to life. Old machines stood covered in dust, and a broken robot nurse lay in the corner. The girls looked around carefully. Elira touched the wall, and suddenly, the robot's eyes lit up. Subject 01. Recognized. "Welcome home, Princess Elira," it said in a rusty voice. Ethan stared in shock. "Princess?" he whispered. "What are you?" Elira didn't answer, but her face turned pale. She walked slowly to the robot and said quietly, "Do you remember us?" The robot blinked, then showed a file on the wall screen. It was a video, recorded long ago. In it, a tall alien woman stood next to two glowing tanks. "These are the hybrid sisters," she said. "They carry the hope of two worlds, human and Corellian, if they survive. Peace is possible." The screen showed the babies inside the tanks. One had the same glowing neck mark as Elira. "This is the future," the woman said. "But the Council disagrees. They want war, not peace." The video ended, and silence filled the room. Ethan turned to Elira, his voice shaking. "You're not just experiments. You were created to stop a war." Elira nodded slowly. "But they called us failures," she said. "They tried to burn the lab and said we died." Luma began to cry softly. "Fire. I remember fire," she said, covering her face. Ethan knelt beside her, hugging her gently. "You're not failures," he said. "You're alive. And that means something." Suddenly, the robot made a warning sound. "Unauthorized signal detected. Tracking in progress." Ethan's heart sank. They had been found again. He rushed to the control panel and triggered the emergency lockdown. Steel walls covered the windows and doors. But it was only a matter of time. They were not safe here anymore. He opened another file on the robot system. "Dr. Baron's final notes." The last entry said, "If the girls are alive, take them to Sector 9, the hidden refuge. The path to healing is there." Ethan memorized the coordinates, but there was more. Varen had created a formula to stabilize their bodies. But the file ended with a warning. "Only one can survive the treatment." Ethan stared at the screen. How could he choose between them? How could he tell them the truth? Before he could decide, an explosion shook the lab. Dust fell from the ceiling and the lights flickered again. "They found us," Ethan said, grabbing the girl's hands. "We need to leave now." Elira turned to the robot. "Lock the base behind us," she ordered. The robot nodded. "Goodbye, Princess," it said, then powered down. They escaped through the back tunnel, smoke rising behind them. As they ran into the forest again, Luma whispered, "Why are they trying to hurt us?" Ethan didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "Because they're afraid of what you can become." The forest was dark and silent after the explosion faded behind them. Dr. Ethan Voss held both girls close as they ran through the thick trees. His heart pounded fast, the cold air burning his lungs. The rain started again, soft but steady, washing the dust from their faces. By the time they stopped, night had already fallen. They found an old cargo shelter half buried under the roots of a giant tree. It wasn't safe, but it was dry and hidden. Ethan set up a small lamp and checked the girls. Luma was breathing hard, her skin glowing faintly blue. Elira's eyes looked tired, her lips pale. He placed his scanner on her arm. The readings made his chest tighten. Their cells were breaking down, unstable. Whatever kept them alive was now failing. Ethan searched through the stolen files again. Dr. Varen's notes repeated the same warning. Subjects will begin to collapse without molecular stabilizer. Find the serum in the reserve lab, he whispered. Reserve lab? Where? He looked at the map attached to the file. A small red mark blinked deep inside the mountain range. Sector 9, the place Varen mentioned before. We need to get there, Ethan said quietly. Elira opened her eyes slowly. We're dying, aren't we? Ethan hesitated. Not if I can help it. She smiled faintly. You're a bad liar, Doctor. He couldn't answer. The truth was too heavy. He had no cure, only hope, as the girls slept. Ethan sat near the entrance, watching the rain fall through cracks in the roof. He thought about what the robot said. Princess Elira. If that was true, who were her people? And why had the Human Council wanted her erased? He remembered the old wars. Humans and the Corellians had once been enemies. Millions had died before peace was forced through fragile treaties. If these girls were hybrids of both, they were living proof that peace could truly work. But that also meant they were a threat to anyone who wanted war again. Suddenly, Luma began to shake in her sleep. Her body glowed brighter, veins lighting up under her skin. Ethan rushed to her side, grabbing a medical injector. Stay with me, Luma, he said softly. Her temperature was rising fast. He injected a cooling dose and held her hand until the light faded. She opened her eyes, whispering, I saw it. The fire again. Ethan brushed her hair gently. You're safe now. But deep down, he knew she wasn't, not for long. By morning, they started moving again. The path to Sector 9 was long and steep. Filled with fog and fallen rocks, Ethan carried Luma on his back, while Elira followed behind, silent but alert. Every sound made them jump, the wind, the cracking branches, the distant hum of drones. They were being hunted still. After hours of climbing, they reached a hidden metal door carved into the side of a cliff. Ethan scanned his ID again, hoping it would work like before. The old system beeped and unlocked. The air inside was cold, but the machines were still alive, humming faintly. The lights flickered as they entered a large chamber filled with tanks and equipment. A faint smell of chemicals lingered. This must be it, Ethan whispered. Elira looked around carefully, her eyes catching a dusty nameplate, Dr. Varen. She read softly. A desk stood near the center with a hollow diary still active. Ethan turned it on, and a flickering image of Dr. Varen appeared. The man's voice was calm but tired. If you're seeing this, he said, then the girls survived. Good. They were my hope. Ethan leaned closer, listening carefully. The stabilizer is inside the main chamber, but use it with care, Varen continued. It will repair their cells, but only one can handle the full dose. The message ended abruptly, followed by the sound of an explosion in the recording. The man had died right after making it. Ethan stood there in silence. Only one could survive. He turned to see Elira watching him quietly. You don't have to tell me, she said softly. I heard. Her voice didn't shake, but her eyes glistened. If someone must live, it should be Luma. Ethan shook his head. No, there has to be another way. There isn't, Elira said gently. You know that. Luma looked up at both of them, confused and scared. What are you talking about? Ethan forced a small smile. Nothing, just science talk. He couldn't tell her yet. Not when she looked so fragile, so full of life. He began preparing the serum anyway. Hoping to find a balance, he mixed 2 vials. One stronger and one weaker. His hands trembled as he worked. Maybe, if he split the dose between them, both could survive. Maybe, if he risked himself, he could take part of it too. As he worked, alarms suddenly began to blink on the wall screens. Power surge detected, the system said in a mechanical voice. Someone had found the lab's location again. Ethan grabbed both girls and pulled them toward the back door. They needed to move before the orderlies arrived, but Elira stopped and turned back to the screen. The hollow of Dr. Varen had started replaying automatically. This time, a hidden message appeared at the bottom of the screen, glowing faintly in red letters. The cure is in their blood, and in yours, Ethan Voss. Ethan froze. What? He whispered, his mind spun. How could his name be there? He had never been part of the project, had he? Elira looked at him with wide eyes. What does that mean? She asked. Ethan didn't know, but deep down, he felt a strange pulse inside his chest, like something had awakened, something that had been sleeping for years. He turned toward the tunnel, his voice firm. "We'll find the truth, and I'll keep you both alive." The sound of approaching engines grew louder outside. He took a deep breath, holding both girls close, and they ran once again into the dark. "Doctor." Ethan Voss stood frozen in the dim light of the underground lab. The screen still glowed with those strange, haunting words. "The cure is in their blood. And in yours, Ethan Voss." He didn't understand it. How could his name be part of a secret project he had never joined? His hands trembled slightly as he turned away from the screen. Behind him, the two girls watched him closely. Elira's face calm but pale, Luma's eyes wide, confused and scared. Outside, the sound of approaching aircraft grew louder. Time was running out. Ethan forced himself to focus. He took the prepared serum from the table, one vial glowing bright blue. The dose was meant for only one subject. Giving it to both would weaken its effect. But giving it to one might save her completely, while the other— He couldn't finish that thought, Elira, he said gently. "How long have you known?" She looked at him, her voice soft. "Since the lab," she said. "Since the robot called me princess." "You remembered everything?" Ethan asked. "No," she whispered. "Just pieces, but I know Luma is the younger one, the smaller hope, and I always knew. If we couldn't both survive, it should be her." Luma frowned, stepping forward. "No," she said. "You're stronger. You always protected me. You should get it." Ethan knelt down, placing both vials on the floor. "I don't want to lose either of you," he said. "But if the serum must be shared, maybe I can take some of the risk too." Elira blinked. "You?" Ethan nodded. "The file said the cure is in my blood too. Maybe I was unknowingly exposed years ago during training. Maybe that's why I can survive a partial dose." He split the serum into 3 parts. One for Luma, one for Elira, and a smaller one for himself. Elira hesitated. "It's dangerous." "Everything we've done has been dangerous," Ethan replied. "But we're still alive." They each took the injection one by one. The serum burned like fire under their skin. Ethan clenched his teeth, feeling something twist inside his chest. Luma gasped, her body glowing bright. Elira fell to her knees, shaking. He held them both as the light grew, surrounding them in a soft, strange warmth. Then everything went still. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The pain faded slowly, replaced by something else. Calm, balance, strength. Ethan opened his eyes. He felt different, not superhuman, not alien, but awake. Like something inside him had finally connected with something lost. Luma sat up first, her color returning, her eyes clearer than ever. "I feel good," she said, surprised. Elira groaned softly, then smiled weakly. "So do I." Ethan let out a shaky breath. "It worked," he whispered. "You're both alive, but their moment of relief didn't last." The ground shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The wall screen flickered with a red warning. "Breach detected, external forces approaching, evacuation required." The orderlies had arrived. Their last safe place was about to become a battlefield. Ethan grabbed his medical bag and helped the girls stand. They ran through the back tunnel. Now lit with emergency lights at the end of the tunnel, a platform waited, a small escape ship. The lab had one final gift, a way out. But as they stepped aboard, the platform wouldn't lift. A message blinked on the control panel. "Authorization needed, Elira W01 and Guardian Key." Elira touched the panel, and it accepted her code. Then it asked for the Guardian Key. Ethan placed his hand on it. Nothing happened. Suddenly his arm glowed faintly. The same light he saw in the girls. The machine beeped, then unlocked. The ship hummed to life and began to rise outside. The orderlies broke through the doors. Shouting, Elira looked down at them with calm eyes. "They wanted us dead," she said, "but we're still standing." As the ship shot into the sky, they watched the lab grow smaller. Below, the past was burning. Above them, a new sky opened. Stars. Planets, hope. Inside the ship, Luma leaned against Ethan's side. "Do you think we're safe now?" she asked. Ethan smiled gently. "Not yet, but we're together, and that's a good start." Elira looked ahead, her voice quiet but strong. "Doctor," she said, "you didn't just save us, you became part of us." He didn't answer right away. He just looked at them both and nodded. These weren't just lost children anymore. They were part of something bigger, something the universe had tried to destroy but failed. The ship entered warp mode. Stars stretching into lines, their journey wasn't over, but now they had a fighting chance, and for the first time since this began, Ethan believed They might actually win. The stars outside the ship stretched like silver threads as they moved through warp space. Inside, the cabin was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Dr. Ethan Voss sat against the wall. Breathing slowly, his arms still glowed faintly, the warmth of the serum still pulsing inside him. Elira was asleep, her head resting near the window. Luma sat cross-legged beside Ethan, drawing circles on the floor with her finger. She looked peaceful, but he knew it wouldn't last. The ship's system beeped gently, waking Elira. They were nearing their destination, an old research station in the outer belt. Hidden and long abandoned, Dr. Varen had marked this place as a possible backup location. Ethan hoped there were answers waiting, maybe even allies. The ship dropped out of warp with a soft jolt. A giant asteroid field spun in slow motion around them. In the center floated a black station. Covered in scars and space dust, no signal came from it. But the doors opened when they approached. They docked and the airlock sealed behind them. The lights inside the station flickered weakly. Ethan held a scanner in one hand and Luma's hand in the other. Elira led the way with sharp eyes, her senses stronger than ever as they explored. They passed rooms full of broken machines and flickering screens. Old chairs, cracked floors, dusty monitors. Everything felt frozen in time. But then they found a room that still worked. A medical bay just like the ones back in the main colony. Ethan connected his scanner and opened the system. A list of old files popped up. Research logs, DNA samples, test subjects. He clicked a file called Guardian Protocol. The screen lit up with a video, an old recording of Dr. Varen. If the hybrids survive, they will need a guide, the doctor said. Someone who can bridge both worlds, someone who shares their code. Ethan leaned closer. The Guardian must bond with both subjects to stabilize their powers. If not, their minds may collapse. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. That explained the strange glow in his body. The sudden healing. He wasn't just carrying the cure. He was connected to the girls on a deeper level. Elira stood beside him, her eyes full of understanding. "You're our guardian," she said softly. Ethan looked at her, unsure. "But I didn't choose this," he whispered. "Maybe not," she replied, "but you stayed. And that matters more." Suddenly, the lights flickered red. The system began to beep rapidly. "Warning," the computer said. "Unknown vessel approaching. ID, orderly strike ship." Ethan's stomach turned. They had been followed again. He rushed to seal the doors and activated the station's defense systems. But most of the weapons were dead outside. The black ship floated like a shadow, and then it fired a signal pod. It crashed through the docking bay and released a team of soldiers in heavy armor. "They're inside," Ethan said, pulling the girls behind him. He activated the shielding protocol on his wrist. A wave of heat flowed through his veins. His skin shimmered with the same glow as the girls. When the orderlies broke through the hallway, they opened fire. But the bullets bounced off Ethan's shield. He moved faster than he thought possible. He grabbed a metal pipe and struck one soldier so hard that his armor dented. Luma and Elira focused together, their hands raised. A burst of energy flowed from them. It wasn't fire or lightning, just pure light. It knocked the attackers back, slamming them into the walls. But more kept coming. Ethan breathed harder, the glow on his skin flickering. The serum inside him wasn't made for battle. It was meant for healing. He was pushing his body beyond its limits. One soldier grabbed Luma and raised a weapon to her head. Ethan screamed and charged. He tackled the man and knocked him across the room. The energy inside Ethan exploded outward like a wave. Everyone fell. The lights blew out and silence followed. When Ethan opened his eyes, the room was dark. Sparks flew from the walls. The station shaking, Elira helped him up, her voice full of fear. "You're hurt," she said. Blood dripped from Ethan's side. His body was shutting down from the strain. Luma hugged him tightly, tears in her eyes. "Please don't die," she whispered. "You're our only home." Ethan placed a weak hand on her head. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. But his body told another story. The screen behind them lit up again, a final message blinking. "Emergency warp route available. Destination unknown." It was their only chance. Elira nodded. "We have to go before more come." She helped Ethan onto the escape pod. Luma pressed the launch button and the pod began to rise. As they left the burning station behind, Ethan's eyes closed slowly, but in his mind, he saw something, a bright world, green skies, strange towers, and a woman who looked like Elira standing in the wind. Was it a memory? or a future calling them home. The escape pod floated silently through space. Dr. Ethan Voss lay unconscious. His breathing shallow, Luma sat beside him, holding his hand tightly, her eyes filled with worry. Elira stood at the front, watching the star map on the screen. They had left the burning station behind. But their journey wasn't over. The coordinates from Dr. Varen's hidden file had taken them somewhere uncharted. A green planet slowly came into view. Glowing softly like it was alive, Luma whispered. "It's beautiful," Elira nodded. This feels like home." As the pod entered the planet's atmosphere, the lights inside flickered. Ethan groaned and opened his eyes slowly. "Where are we?" he asked. "You made it," Elira said softly. "We all did." The pod landed gently in a wide, open field. Tall grass moved with the wind, and glowing trees stood like guardians around them. Strange flying creatures drifted across the sky, and rivers sparkled like liquid light. Luma stepped out first, breathing in the fresh air. "It doesn't hurt anymore," she whispered. Smiling, Ethan slowly followed, his body still weak but healing. Something about this place made him feel calm, stronger, connected. They walked toward the forest, following a glowing path of stones. The deeper they went, the more they felt like they were being watched. But it wasn't fear. It felt like a memory reaching out from the past. Soon, they reached a village hidden among the trees. The houses were shaped like flowers and lit from within. Alien children played in the grass, and adults stared in shock as Elira and Luma approached. An elder woman stepped forward, her skin silver blue, her eyes wise. She looked at the girls, her lips trembling. "Elira." "Luma, is it really you?" Elira stopped, confused. "Do I know you?" The woman nodded slowly, tears forming. "I am your grandmother," she said. "We thought you died 6 years ago." Ethan's eyes widened. "You knew about them?" The woman turned to him, her voice steady. "We knew they were taken by humans who feared peace, but we couldn't find them. We searched every system." She led them into a large hall covered in vines and glowing crystals. There, ancient technology mixed with natural beauty. The girls touched the walls and a giant screen lit up, showing memories, the tanks, the fire, the escape, the pain. Then, silence. The woman spoke again. "The girls were born to unite two races, Corellian and human. They are the bridge. But the council wanted war, and so they erased the project. Erased the children." Ethan felt anger and sadness. "They tried to kill them," he said quietly. "They failed," Elira replied, standing tall. "We survived." The villagers gathered, whispering in awe. They knelt in respect, honoring the return of the long-lost princesses. Luma hugged Ethan tightly. "Does this mean we're safe now?" He nodded slowly. "For now." But the elder woman turned serious. "There is one more thing," she said. "The orderlies followed your trail. They may arrive soon. We must prepare." Ethan stood, his strength returning fully now. His body still glowed faintly, a sign of the guardian bond. He looked around and saw not just a village, but an army ready to defend peace. "I'll stand with you," he said. "Not as a doctor this time, but as your protector." The next morning, the orderlies arrived, ships dark as night, soldiers armored and silent. But they did not find frightened children. They found a united people, Corellians, humans, and hybrids standing together. Ethan stepped forward first, his body glowing. Beside him stood Elira and Luma, hands joined. A pulse of light spread from them. The energy wave hit the soldiers' weapons, disabling them without harm. A voice from the enemy ship crackled over the speakers. "We were told you were dangerous," Elira spoke back, her voice clear. "Only to those who lie, who destroy, who fear peace." The ships backed away slowly, the soldiers retreating. No one fired a shot, no war began, only silence, and then the quiet acceptance of truth. Later that evening, the village lit up in celebration. Music filled the air, soft and strange, but beautiful. The stars shined above as if watching. Ethan sat beside the girls. Watching them laugh, he had been just a doctor, walking home in the rain. Now he had helped save the future. Elira looked at him. "Will you stay with us?" Ethan smiled. "For as long as you'll have me." Luma leaned against his shoulder. "I'm not hungry anymore," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "I know." As the wind danced through the glowing trees, 3 forgotten lives, 1 doctor, 2 little girls became the beginning of something new. Not just a story of survival, but the return of hope.